guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Olivia, and basically today's video is going to be some Christmas DIY gifts that people will actually want. I basically have filmed this over a few days, so if my outfit changes like a million times, then you know that's why. But I do have a Christmas jumper on today. It says making spirits bright, so I put this video on just for this jumper on just for this video. But yeah, so that is what today's video is going to be. I'm pretty excited about it. I had fun filming this. It was also low-key stressful because one of the DIYs, or like two of the DIYs depending on which way you look at it, didn't really work. But we're gonna overlook that because the thing is, first of all, I was making only one of these DIYs that I was making was actually to give to someone, so the fact that the ones that didn't really work, doesn't matter. And also it's just a bit of fun, and I'd never tried doing any of these before apart from one, so the others were all like new to me. So yeah, I was just learning the way you guys will be learning with me. So you can learn from my mistakes. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. I really hope that you guys enjoy this video. I just thought it would be a fun one to do because being like creative and crafty and stuff is something I think you're encouraged to do so much when you're little, but when you get older it's not so much, but it is actually so fun to do. So I really encourage you all to give it a try. We're so focused, I think, half the time on, I know I'm guilty of thinking like, oh, I haven't spent enough money on somebody or whatever, but Christmas, first of all, isn't about the gifts, and second of all, it's about if you are getting someone a gift, it's the thought that counts. So these gifts are really affordable and really super fun to make, but also super easy, and they will not cost an arm and a leg, which is kind of the whole reason of me making this video. So anyway, like I said, I'm gonna stop rambling. And yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe, and yeah, enjoy the video. So the first DIY that we're going to be making is these homemade bath bombs. I can be a testament to the fact that they are amazing. So for this you'll need some bicarbonate of soda, citric acid, corn flour, little moulds. I have these moulds, but you can use anything. You want some essential oils, some coconut oil, and some Epsom salts. So you're gonna do, first of all, 90 grams of each of those dry ingredients into a bowl, and you're gonna whisk those together until there's no more lumps and they're really well combined. The thing here is that I know I said 90 grams, but it's basically doesn't matter like the actual quantity, it just needs to be an equal amount of each of them. So then you're going to put 10 mils of cold water and about 10 mils of melted coconut oil in just this little jug, and mix those together, and then add in a few drops of your essential oil blend. You can just use straight essential oils. I had this little blend of like grapefruit and ginger, but you could just use some lavender essential oils or whatever. And then you want to put just a little bit at a time of that wet mixture into the dry mixture. I'm using a little pipette because I just had it and I thought it would stop me just pouring in too much at once, but you want to add like a really tiny amount at a time, but you could just pour it in. But yeah, and then stir between each addition. You'll hear that it kind of like sizzles every time you add in some of the wet mixture, but it's supposed to do that, so that's okay. Just keep going and mixing and adding in the wet mixture until it sort of sticks together when you squeeze the mixture. And then you want to start packing it into your molds. Like I said, I have these little molds just in the house anyway, and I think you can buy them online, but if you don't have these, you could use like an egg cup and just make kind of smaller ones. They don't have to be, you know, any specific shape, they can be whatever you want. But I was using these molds, so you just want to make sure that it's packed in really, really well and really tightly. And because I'm using this mold, I was doing the same, you know, to both sides and then pressing them together so that it would make a ball. And then just sort of tap the side of the mold gently and it lifted off really well for me. If it doesn't, you can sort of just keep going, and you can always repack and re-tap the molds if you need to. But yeah, I honestly was so pleased with how these turned out. And I think especially because I had these little molds, I think they looked pretty professional, if I do say so myself. But like I said, if you don't have the molds, it really doesn't matter. They'll still do the exact same job and be just as good. The little bath bombs, if they're, you know, any random shape or size. And that is literally it. Here are your finished bath bombs. So the quantities I used here made 4 bath bombs, but like I say, you could use any quantities to make more or less. And you could always add in some little dried flowers for them to look some really pretty, or some food colouring. But yeah, this was one of my favourite things that I made for this video. So the next thing we're going to be making is this cute little top that I made. So for this you will need a flat hard surface. I'm using just a wooden chopping board. You'll need a t-shirt. I've got 2 different ones here, but I obviously only used one of them. You need some transfer paper and an iron. So I had basically, the story behind making this is that I'd seen on Urban Outfitters some really cool like graphic t-shirts with nice little quotes and things on, but they're like 30-40 quid, and it's not even like, you know, they're overly sustainable or anything. So I basically thought like that would be so easy to make myself. So I went on Pinterest and I was kind of reading through some little quotes, and then I saw one that literally just said "be nice," but it was sort of, I don't know, I didn't really like the font and whatever, so that was, you know, I found the quote myself. But then I basically went onto this app I have called Fonto, and you basically just go into Fonto, type in the text that you want. So like I said, I'm just doing "be nice," and then you can choose whatever font you like. I did quite like a big kind of bold one, but obviously you can do any. And then I chose a colour for the font, and I decided that because I knew I was using this sort of minty green t-shirt, I wanted to keep those the colours sort of, you know, cool. And I did this sort of darkish greeny blue, and then I went into the settings of the text and added a shadow, and I made the shadow not blurry at all. And then I made the shadow into a slightly darker version of the text colour, if that makes any sense at all. So I just saved that image from Fonto as a PNG, and I went into this app called Magic Eraser, which I have to remove backgrounds from things. So I just cropped it to right down as close to the text as I could, and then basically you just tap and it takes out the background, so you can kind of go as far in as you want. And I played around with it and thought like, okay, no, I want that to stay, I want that to go, whatever. So you can just take out the background as much or as little as you want, but this just means that there won't be like a big white block around the text when you print it onto the t-shirt. And you want to save it in high resolution with a transparent background, and then you want to go into Word or whatever software you use and make sure you flip your text horizontally. I was using 2 different texts here because I thought I might make 2 different t-shirts, but I didn't in the end. But this is really important. You need to flip it horizontally so that it's sort of mirrored, so it looks backwards, but that means that when you put it onto the t-shirt it will be normal. I've made this mistake many times, forgotten to do this step. It's very important. So then you just want to print that onto your transfer paper. To cut out your text, and you want to kind of keep as close in as possible, but not too close, if that makes sense. So just leave a few millimeters around the outside of the text, and then you just lay your t-shirt out, or you could do this onto a bag or whatever. It doesn't have to be a t-shirt, obviously. And you just lay it out on your hard surface and iron it so that it's nice and flat. And then you just place your little transfer wherever on the item of clothing or whatever you're ironing onto. You just make sure it's in the right place or whatever, and follow the instructions for your transfer paper. For mine, it needed really even and hard pressure for about a minute for this size of a design, and then I just had to peel it off. So one of my biggest tips here would be to peel it off quickly, otherwise you kind of get these like stripy lines the whole way across. So you want to go kind of slowly at the first bit, you know, in the first kind of corner, to make sure that it's ironed on enough, but after that go pretty quick. And then you can seal the design by just popping a little bit of like greaseproof paper over it and ironing again, and that is the finished product. So I'm not sure that pairing it with these grey sweats was the best outfit combo, but here's the t-shirt, and I actually really like it, and it's pretty similar to one that I had seen on Urban Outfitters, which is so fun. And I even decided, you know, that I could tie it. But that's a really nice thing about a DIY like this, is you can really personalize it as much as you want. You can put whatever you want on the t-shirt, you can tie it, you can crop it, however you are feeling. So this next DIY is by far my favourite that I made. It's this little pebble art quote frame. So the first thing you'll need is a frame, obviously. Then you'll need some little pebbles, and I have some dried flowers here as well. You could use sticks or whatever. A pencil and like an inky pen, and some quite thick card and scissors. You'll also need super glue. I forgot to show that. So you want to remove the back from the frame. You want to take the glass out of the frame as well, and then just measure and cut out a piece of card the exact same size as the back of the frame. And then you want to stick that piece of card onto the back of the frame. Like I said, you will need glue for this. I forgot to put that in the you know, necessities, but I'm using Crit Stick for this part, and I use super glue later, but you could use super glue the whole way through. So you just want to make sure that's really well stuck down and there's no lumps or anything. And then I used my pebbles and my little dry flowers just to kind of set out the sort of design I thought I wanted. So my idea was kind of to have 2 little people and then the flowers as like trees either side of them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you see what I'm doing. But if you go on Pinterest and search pebble art, you can find so many here. So then the next thing I did was went on Pinterest and I searched calligraphy alphabet. Now I actually can do normal calligraphy, but for the purposes of this video I'm showing you how to do it this way, because I know not everyone can do calligraphy or like has access to proper calligraphy pens. So you can choose whatever quote you want. I was making this for my grandma, and there's this little prayer that we've always said like since I was really little, and it's a prayer of thanksgiving, and the last line of it is, but most of all for those we love. So anyway, that was the quote that I chose, but you could do anything you wanted, and I'm basically just sketching out here with a pencil the quote in the calligraphy letters using the calligraphy alphabet from Pinterest as a guide. But like I said, if you can do normal calligraphy, obviously go ahead. But yeah, so then here I'm using my calligraphy pen basically just because it was kind of the thickest, sort of inkiest pen I had. But you could obviously just use a normal biro pen for this, but just make sure you sort of colour in really, really well. But any pen really will work. A sort of thick inky pen would work best. But like I said, you could totally use a normal biro if you don't have access to a pen like that. So once you've finished writing out your little quote, you can put back your pebbles or your sticks or whatever you're using just into the place where you want them. The reason I did this before I did the quote was just to have an idea of how much space I had to write with. But now I'm just putting them out again so I know that they're in the right places, and then I'm super gluing them down. I do think it's quite important to use super glue or a very, very strong glue for this, especially if you're using maybe sticks or slightly bigger pebbles or anything like that. But I use super glue because I just thought I was really worried of them falling off. But yeah, you could really use anything here. Like I say, if you go on Pinterest and look at pebble art ideas, there's loads of different designs you can do, but I did this little pebble design which is like supposed to be me and my grandma, and I got the pebbles from a little beach near her house that we go to all the time. It's sort of a special place. So yeah, and then you want to pop the back of the frame back in and fold it down, and then super glue the glass of the frame onto the front. I'm not sure how much sense that makes, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. This is a really nice way to be able to do this even if you can't find a deep box frame. If you can find a deep box frame, that works really, really well. But yeah, this is how it turned out in the end, and this was my favourite DIY of all of these. I think it turned out so well. I'm so pleased with it. I feel like this is the kind of thing I would actually pay someone like £25 to make. So yeah. And our next DIY is these little coasters and also a little ring or jewellery dish. So for this DIY you will need corn flour, bicarbonate of soda, and some little kind of bowls or moulds, paintbrushes and some paints. So you want to use a cup of baking soda and mix that with half a cup of corn flour and a full cup of cold water. And again, the actual quantities here don't matter. It's just that you want, like, you could use a mug or a bowl or anything, but it needs to be like a full one of the bicarb, half corn flour and another fill of cold water. So you want to heat this in a pan, and just until it becomes this sort of like mashed potato-y texture. Now it will stick to the bottom of the pan very, very badly. But I promise it does come off because it sort of just dissolves in water, so it's really easy to clean off if you're worried about that. But yeah, you want to keep stirring it and heating it until it's this mashed potato-y type texture, and then you just want to leave it to cool for a good while with a damp tea towel over it. So once that is cooled and it's cool enough to touch, you want to dust a surface with corn flour and roll out your clay. So like I said at the start, not all of these DIYs went 100% to plan, and this was the one that really wasn't the best. So basically I had made some Christmas decorations using this clay recipe, and they were super cute and they worked really well, and I was going to put them in this video, but I kind of think giving someone something Christmassy for a Christmas present is sometimes kind of annoying because they have to really wait a whole year before they can use it again. So I wanted to think of a way that I could use this clay recipe, which I love, in a way that wasn't just Christmas decorations. So the way I made the Christmas decorations was, at this point, instead of using a bowl mold, I used like cookie cutters of gingerbread men and things, and tied them with some string. But here I'm using this little dish as a mold, and I'm using my dad's wedding ring to make two little ring molds or shapes in the bottom of the dish, and then just peeling it away from the sides, and I just set that over on this baking tray to cook in the oven. So basically why I'm saying this DIY wasn't 100% the best was because obviously this clay, originally this recipe was made to make clay decorations, so they don't really stay very flat, and they also aren't that strong, so trying to make a bowl out of it was not the best idea, but it kind of worked, but it's just not the best. And then the other thing I'm doing here is making little coasters. So again, I forgot to put this in the list of things you'll need for this DIY, but I have these little cork circles, and I had some square ones as well with little adhesive backs. So I cut out a few shapes of those to make little coasters, and again, they did work, they're fine, they just don't look the best because they didn't really stay 100% flat. I do think that for the coasters, this obviously wouldn't work for the bowls, but for the coasters, one way of keeping them flat would be to bake them between two baking trays. So the way I've just set them on one baking tray, if you put another one on top, that would work. So anyway, you want to bake these at about 160 degrees, that's for a fan oven, and halfway through you just want to turn them over. And then, like I said, for the coasters I had these cork adhesive things, so I just stuck them on. This was another mistake I made. Obviously the clay shrinks when you bake it, so the coasters are a little bit too small now for the cork adhesive, which I don't think looks bad, but anyway. Then I decided to paint a few of the coasters and one of the little bowls. Again, this doesn't look very professional or very good. If you took more time about it, if you were better at painting, this probably would look better, but I basically, for the Christmas decorations I made, I just did like a watercolor kind of wash of color over them, and it looked really good. So I suppose if you did that, maybe that would look a little bit better, but I think these kind of look like something I would have made when I was about 3 years old at playgroup. So there we are, but we live and we learn. You guys can learn from my mistakes. If you're better at painting, you could probably make these turn out really, really well. And like I said, again, I'm painting one of the little bowls here, so again, I think this could have looked really good, but my paintbrush was a little bit too big and I didn't have a smaller one, so I ended up smudging some of it and it just looks quite messy. But anyway, I'm not actually giving these DIYs to anyone apart from the picture frames, so they're just for me, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, this is the finished product of the coasters. And this is the final little jewellery dish. I do think this is cute. The idea was there, the execution just was not. So our last DIY is this little hook shelf thing. I don't really know what to call this. This is one of my favourites as well. So you basically are just going to need like a plank of wood. My dad put 2 screws into this one for me, which was really helpful. And you're going to need some little hooks and some paint and a couple of paintbrushes and a little pencil. So again, I started by going onto Pinterest to find a little quote. I wanted quite a short one. I do think this little idea would work really well as like a mug holder. You could put mugs on each of the hooks, so for that one you could write like "but first coffee" as your little quote. But basically I was making this for myself, and I was making it as like a little kind of key holder thing to put behind my bedroom door that I could put masks on it and keys and whatever. So I wrote this quote, which is "find today's magic," because that's something I'm really working on, is like finding the kind of little magic nice things in each day. And I thought that I'm obviously gonna have to lift my keys and my mask and everything every time I leave the house, so it's a really nice thing to be reminded of every time I'm going out for a day. So yeah, I sketched that out again with the calligraphy sort of alphabet from Pinterest. I sketched that out on the wood, and then I went over it with this black acrylic paint. I also am quite aware that it looks like it says "bind today's magic," but that's what the calligraphy F looks like, so yeah. decided to put behind each or below each little place where I was going to have a hook, I wrote mask, bag and keys, just so that I knew where each thing went. And then I screwed in a little hook above each one. So I had 3 hooks, they did not match, they were all different sizes, they were all different random colours, but I kind of think that adds to the rustic vibes. So I actually love how this turned out. So yeah, it was like a really good idea. And it looks really cute. It blends in really well with the colour of my wardrobe. So yeah, then I just screwed it in with a drill to my wardrobe. You could totally not have the screws here, and you could just have this as something that kind of sets against a wall rather than being screwed into something. It's a bit less permanent. But I thought this would be a really cool thing to make somebody. You don't obviously have to write mask, bag and keys, and like I said, this could also be really cool as a mug holder. But yeah, I thought this turned out pretty well. So that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Please do give it a thumbs up, and please let me know if you do try any of these DIYs. I would love to see your pictures, and please tag me on Instagram if you do make any of these. I love you all lots, and I will see you next time. Bye!